Good afternoon. Looks like the ranks of wind thinned out a little bit, but Dan did a great job. We're going to try to keep you engaged. That's what the discussion's about. As you know, my company and other companies, we've invested significant resources to be able to give energy consumers more choices, more options. However, if we don't get our customers to engage, that means to use the tools, to engage with us, to use the information, we're not going to get the value out of those investments. So we have a great panel to talk about customer engagement. And so you think about customer engagement, what company wrote the book on customer engagement? You're going to say OG&E, right? No, P&G, Procter Gamble. And so to lead us into our panel discussion, Lisa Hillenbrand is with us today, who's the Global Marketing Director of Procter Gamble. So please welcome Lisa. She's going to talk about customer engagement. Lisa?
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I am delighted to be here. First, because P&G is committed to finding sustainability solutions, and I'm thrilled to be able to share with you some of our learning. And second, because this is my hometown. I live now in Cincinnati, but what a pleasure to be here through the magic of cherry blossoms, one of my absolute favorite times of the year. Great businesses start with a great purpose, as Dan said. And what greater purpose do you guys have in electricity? It's the lifeline for nearly everything in our lives. You truly do power the people. Like electricity, P&G is part of everyday life with brands like Gillette, Always, Oral-B, Olay, Venus, Old Spice, CoverGirl, and Duracell. We have almost 5 billion consumers using our brands every day. And purpose, the why that Dan talked about, is so important to us that it's embedded in our growth strategy. P&G is all about touching and improving more consumer lives in more parts of the world more completely. And you'll get a sense for that as I go through the couple of stories ahead. I imagine the key to your success will be engaging what I call people power behind smart grid technologies. Frankly, this is very tough work. It's probably the toughest work you're going to do. But without it, smart grid technologies are not likely to succeed. But when we do succeed, oops, one more. We create great new businesses. For example, we were able to create Swiffer that took the drudgery out of dusting and cleaning and created a whole new business and actually made cleaning fun. Here's what we learned. Innovation does not stop with invention. I'll say that one more time. Innovation does not stop with invention. In fact, invention is just the very first step. I know it feels good. You got something, it's invented. But if people don't adopt it, it's not an innovation. Successful innovation needs to delight people. And we need to get to the point with smart grid technologies where more and more people are delighted with the solutions that you guys are proposing. You face similar challenges with smart grid. I hear you've got so many benefits, from economic competitiveness, better for the environment, and it's going to allow residential customers to have control over their energy use. And yet it also appears that the majority of residential customers are simply not engaging, and a few are actively fighting the new technology. So the key question for all of us is, how are we going to engage people so everyone benefits? I'm going to share a couple of P&G examples, and then in our panel discussion we'll talk about application to smart grid. Overall, the couple of things that we have learned is, first of all, establish a purpose. I agree with Dan, it's absolutely essential that people understand why we're making the changes we're making. It's particularly important with habit change because habit change is hard for all of us. The second one, develop big ideas that explain your benefits. And finally, engaging people power, and I'll talk more about that as we go through the examples. The first example I'm going to share is a very old brand. In fact, it has old as part of its name. How many of you think of Old Spice with a whistling guy, a ship icon, and the cologne your grandfather used to use? In other words, we had a big problem. However, we had a number of great attributes to the brand, and we needed to figure out how to talk about those in a new way to engage consumers of today, engage more people. The first thing we did is we thought about the Old Spice purpose. And you knew that ship would come back somewhere, right? We created a new purpose, which was helping guys navigate the seas of manhood. We looked at the category and we said, you know what guys were doing? They were using whatever body wash was in the shower. And guess what? It was something, you know, their wife or their girlfriend or their mom were using. We then, not good idea, unless it was Olay. We're happy with that. But anyway, so anyway, we looked and we said, but we wanted to look at guys' lives in a larger context. And what we found is, of course, guys wanted to be manly, but they were secretly afraid, many of them, that they really weren't manly. Well, we found somebody who is a unique spokesperson for manliness, and I'm going to have Isaiah Mustafa tell you more about it.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me. Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamond. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
He was my man. I even met the guy, and I discovered, alas, he's married. Ah, well. This was such a big idea, it became part of the cultural conversation. You can see we had 1.8 billion PR impressions, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and most importantly, you're going to say, well, what about business results? This 70-year-old brand is now the #1 selling brand of deodorant and body wash. I'm also happy to say that the manly men in my family are all body wash users. My dad, who's here today, who are all Old Spice body wash and deodorant users. My dad, who's here today. My brother is here today. And my son, speaking of military, is a midshipman at the Naval Academy. And do you know what he was issued his first day at the Naval Academy? Gillette, Swiffer for cleaning Bancroft Hall and making those places extra clean, the dorm rooms, and Old Spice. And you know the military knows a thing or two about manliness. All right. The next example is closer to some of your challenges. Believe it or not, convincing people to wash in cold water is P&G's biggest energy reduction opportunity. Washing clothes in cold water saves about 80% of energy used per load. Imagine this. If every household in the US washed in cold water, we'd save enough energy to fuel 4.5 million homes, and that would reduce CO2 emissions by 12,500 metric tons a year. Huge! And all they have to do, we don't have to build another plant. We don't have to do another thing. They just have to turn the switch to cold. However, people are worried about that. What do you think they're worried about? Germs. Won't get clean, exactly. They start to think about it and they go, okay, I get the idea, but will it really clean my clothes? We introduced a special unit of Tide called Tide Cold Water in 2005, and we started marketing it. The first thing we said to people was, you're going to save $63 in energy costs per year by using Tide Cold Water. All you have to do is wash in cold. We did this for a couple of years, and then in 2007 and 2008, we talked about this 80% of energy per load. And more people converted, but guess what? We really hadn't identified and weren't addressing this #1 barrier, as you said. Is it going to make clothes clean? So this year, we've got a very compelling claim. If you wash in Tide, and by the way, you don't have to use the Tide cold water SKU. Every version of Tide is designed with special cold water enzymes, so it will get your clothes clean. And Tide cleans better in cold water than the competitor does in warm water. Better in cold than the competitor in warm. So we really have addressed the consumer concern. But we didn't stop with talking at a consumer, with doing a lot of advertising. We partnered with power companies and with Good Housekeeping Institute endorsers, etc. Thank you, PG&E. Is Tony still here? And other companies. And we partnered to get the message out of Tide's cold water credentials. Today, about 40% of consumers are washing in cold water, and our goal is to make that 70% by 2020. So we hope you'll all help us reach that goal. But Tide doesn't stop in the laundry room looking for opportunities to touch people. Some of you may have noticed when tornadoes whipped through the Midwest a couple of weeks ago, we sent our Tide Loads of Hope trucks to help. These are trucks that are outfitted with washers and dryers and wash people's clothes for free. And if you think about it, during a disaster, you guys are trying to get the power back up, people are filthy, have dirty clothes, etc. They can bring their clothes, we wash them, and it's a small part, a small gesture that really helps them get their lives back together. And very impactful. We created these in the wake of Hurricane Katrina. When we saw the kind of suffering in New Orleans, we sent our trucks down there and started helping people and cleaning laundry. But sometimes opportunity finds us. How many of you are NASCAR fans? Any NASCAR fans? I see one. Only one NASCAR fan? Tough crowd. Some of you, my father, was watching NASCAR, the Daytona 500, 10:30 at night on a Friday night. The race had had multiple delays, and on a caution, a car slammed into the back of a jet dryer, spilling 200 gallons of jet fuel over the racetrack. It ignited a huge fire, and people were stunned and wondering if the race would continue. Commentators were stuck with dead air time when a truck pulled up, and on the back of the truck, to all of our amazement, were huge boxes of Tide. And the track personnel started taking the Tide out with those little scoops. They got rid of the little scoops and pouring it on the track, and they started scrubbing. Well, we're pretty confident that Tide does a great job with dirt and grease and oil on fabric. But clearly, this was no ordinary laundry stain. As I say, lots of dead air time. The press started talking about it, talking about how Tide was saving the day. Meanwhile, these workers were scrubbing away. And 2 hours later, the race was able to resume. And the USA Today called us the product placement champion of the Daytona 500. Go figure. As I say, sometimes opportunity finds you. We had 330 million impressions worth an estimated $8 million. The major media covered it, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And talk about agility. One of the things when you engage with people is you have to be very agile. Remember, this is 10:30 at night on a Friday night. 24 hours later, we had the following ad produced, legal approval cleared, and at the networks. Want to show the ad?
And this is a bizarre twist to this Daytona 500. A new use for laundry detergent. Whatever it takes.
Isn't that great? What a surprising way to show the cleaning power of Tide. I was thinking on the way over here too, if you guys can partner with the automobile industry and create electric cars to run on NASCAR, there won't be any mess to clean up and we can go back to the laundry room. So keep working on it. Finally, last example. I know many of you are looking for ways to forge closer connections between the people you serve, your employees, and your companies. This Thank You Mom program is P&G's first corporate effort. We were looking for an idea. This is the first one we did was part of the Vancouver Olympics, and we were looking for an idea that married the purpose of P&G, touching lives and improving life, with the purpose of the Olympics, which is about building a better world through sport. And we realized a key unifier is that every athlete has a mom. And if you think about it, mom is truly the unsung hero of the Olympics and more profoundly of life itself. And so we decided our big idea was simply proud sponsor of Mom. We just want to thank you, moms, for all the work and dedication that you do to moms everywhere. The ad I'm going to share with you is one that aired during the Olympic Games, and the insight is, to mom, they're always the small children that they nurtured along the way.
P&G, proud sponsor of moms.
This was such a big idea that it inspired all kinds of acts of generosity in ways that we had never expected. For example, we discovered that a number of moms literally couldn't afford to get to Vancouver from the United States because they didn't have the money to get there. So P&G provided a thank you mom gift to offset the cost because it was absolutely heartbreaking for us to think about these moms after all their hard work missing the big event. And when they got there, what they were invited to is P&G's family home. This is a place where they can get together with their athletes and the whole rest of the family and enjoy and relax during the games. If you think about it, the athletes have the athletes' village, but parents and family aren't allowed in there because of security. So this was really the only place to do that. And we provided free laundry. We also had a beauty salon, and this is great for, remember, they're in the media all the time, so getting their hair done or whatever before they talked in the media. We provided a Pampers playroom, a Pringles lounge, and it was a wonderful place, an oasis away from home where people could relax. So I'm sure you're wondering, did this kind of effort pay off for P&G? You bet it did. Our business results astounded us. Our favorability as a company increased 10 points. We had 6 billion media impressions, 1 billion hits on our P&G website, and we were able to realize $100 million in incremental sales through sponsoring this. There were also all kinds of fringe benefits. You know, I talked about the importance of purpose. What we found is this event really galvanized P&G employees, shareholders, retirees, who really started to understand what it means to touch and improve lives as they saw it through the Olympics. And finally, this isn't the end of our effort, but just the beginning. We've just entered into a 10-year partnership with the International Olympics Committee. And you're soon going to see our Proud Sponsor of Mom program roll out in conjunction with London 2020. It's going to be a series of both corporate and also individual brand efforts. Okay, to recap, as you think about going from passive energy consumers to engaged energy partners, here's some steps you might think about. The first one is establish a purpose that's focused on how you make life better, and make sure that both your employees and your customers understand that purpose, that why you're doing what you're doing. The second, develop big ideas that illustrate your benefits. And finally, engage people power. Through people power, we'll end up with a cleaner, greener energy future. Thank you.